Hello everyone. Today was a day with a lot of discussion on my Twitter and Facebook feed. That all started when I proposed the idea of shipping my new WordPress plugins with the minimum required version of PHP 5.4. As you may know, WordPress still has PHP 5.2 as the minimum required version. That has a couple of issues that I'll further explain later on in the video, but lots of people seem to agree with me, and some even said that they already skip support for PHP 5.2 in their WordPress plugins right now. For example, Danny Van Koten, who has the very popular MailChimp for WordPress plugin, he's going to skip PHP 5.2 support in the upcoming 3.0 version and for all his new plugins as well. You might wonder, why do I want to do this? Well, it's not even about new features in PHP 5.3, but well, it's mainly a security issue, but I'll get back to that later. A little bit of context when it comes to WordPress and PHP versions. WordPress has PHP 5.2 as the minimum required version, and that version is unsupported by the PHP group for almost 4 years now. PHP 5.3 is unsupported for 4 months already, which means that they get no security fixes at all, and that they have potential security issues in their software, which is used to run our websites on web servers. Some Linux distributions claim that they backport those security fixes to the 5.2 and 5.3 branches, but in reality that often doesn't happen, or that happens at a really slow pace. Now let's have a look at WordPress again. It requires PHP 5.2, and according to statistics on WordPress.org, about 70% of all websites that run WordPress run on PHP 5.2 or 5.3. I'll link to the statistics in the description of this video, but what I really wonder now is what percentage of those 5.2 and 5.3 installs are actually active installs, are installs that are still maintained, and how does that correspond to the WordPress version that they use? I mean, they could be running on WordPress 3.0 or even older than that for all we know. I think that affects the statistics in such a big way that we have a completely skewed view of reality at this moment, but we don't really know because we don't have access to those statistics. Let's have a look at the market where web hosts operate. I believe that they are driven by demand, and what that means is basically they support whatever we require, and we means the open source projects, the bigger ones. There's a really good blog post by Anthony Ferrara who wrote about this very subject, and I'm gonna quote him. If major projects like WordPress and CodeIgniter say that 5.2 will no longer be supported, the vast majority of hosts would almost immediately support newer versions. Why? Because if they don't, they'll lose business. He goes on by saying that end users don't need to know what PHP is, as long as they know that their web host can run the software that they want. He supports his claim by comparing it to the Go PHP 5 group, which was organized in early 2008. There were a bunch of open source projects that pledged to make PHP 5.2 the next, the minimum required PHP version for the next major versions of their software. And what happened is that around 100 open source projects and 100 hosting companies, they joined forces to make sure that all these open source projects were going to be running on PHP 5 because they were still on 4. And this resulted in that within 6 months over 50% of all web hosts adopted PHP 5, which was a really big step forward, even bigger than we are facing right now with 5.2 and 5.3. I think the WordPress ecosystem badly needs this to happen again. Now, more and more people in the WordPress community are sharing my opinion on this, and I don't think WordPress is going to actually bump the required PHP version number anytime soon. So I want to move forward. I want to make progress here, and I want to raise awareness in the entire web world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a library that I'm going to bundle with all my new WordPress plugins. And what that library basically does is it checks for the PHP version on the server. And you can use the plugin if it's 5.4 or higher, and you can't use it if it's below that. So I'm basically going to alienate all PHP 5.2 users and 5.3 users. I am going to be a bit nice to them, because I am going to give them information about what they can do, what web host they can use that actually supports 5.4 or even 5.5 or 5.6 already. And a list of a couple of things that they can ask their web hosting company should they want to upgrade with them, because a lot of them already do, but users are still stuck with all the PHP versions and they just have a setting in their settings panel or whatever. Yeah, I know that I'm going to stop a lot of potential users for my plugin, and that's also the reason that I'm going to do it for new plugins only. Yeah, I don't want to stop existing users of existing plugins, to stop them from being able to use plugins with new versions. But I think it's good to start raising awareness in the plugin ecosystem even before WordPress core starts doing that. And the reason why I think that is that plugins have a much smaller impact. We can do things on our own, and we don't need WordPress, which powers 20% of the entire internet. We don't have to change all that right away. We can do it in smaller baby steps. I think, and I hope, that this will help WordPress push forward. I think we are going to adopt a more recent version of PHP. We will have to. And we have to do it in a much quicker fashion than we did before. I mean, PHP 5.2 is no longer supported for over 4 years now. It's 4 years. It's ridiculous. I can't even... There are no words to describe how silly that looks in an ecosystem that is so proud of being one of the most used pieces of software on the internet. We can't no longer tell people that it's okay to run PHP 5.2 on their servers. I mean, the issue is much more complex than my little plugins, but it seems so silly to recommend people to stick on their PHP 5.2 hosting plans. It's going to take time, definitely. I have no illusion that my little library and my plugins are going to change anything big, but even if it can be just the starting point of some bigger changes, or even just contribute to the bigger picture, then I'm going to be happy. I'm going to open source it, obviously, so if you want to use that library, you are free to do so. But yeah, it's going to take baby steps, one user at a time, maybe one hosting company at a time, but eventually we'll get there.